question.
So, Bob, how do you know if your press was stretched or is original size to what was manufactured?
Okay, that's a good question, and the answer to that is, first of all, a 4.5 by 9 carver is always a 4.5 by 9 carver, even though we can stretch it. And many 4.5 by 9 carvers have been stretched to a 6 by 9. And the way you stretch a press is you want, or the reason that you stretch a press is you want a greater image area. That means it's necessary to be able to hold a larger die in the die box, and you need a larger counter block and slide to be able to perform that pressure. In your case, Jared, you have a 6 by 10 carver out there on your floor that has been stretched to an 8 by 12. And the way that is done is that the front jaw on the die box has been moved forward, and the rear jaw, which is in a T shape, has been modified, and the chuck screw is longer to be able to accept that die in the die box. Also, extra holes have been drilled in the die box to permit the shoes to be moved forward and rearward. Furthermore, a much larger counter block and slide has been made to be put into the press. Luckily, not much was necessary to do to the inking roller, the rubber roller itself, because the distance between the two inking arms was large enough to accommodate a much wider roller, which has to be wider than 12 inches to ink a 12-inch plate. However, the fountain needs to be modified, and the inking rollers need to have been spread out so that they are wider than 12 inches. That can be done on most carver fountain bases, but perhaps it might not have been able to have been done on yours, so you may be necessary to buy a wider fountain base and new rollers. But it's something that's been done traditionally. The 4.5 by 9 carver, almost all of them have been stretched to a 6 by 9 using a 6 by 10 carver counter block and moving the front jaw forward an inch. Is that right? 1.5 inches. And that's really pretty much all that's necessary to do. Now, when it comes to a modern press or a Kronite press, many times we've modified and stretched a 5 by 9 to a 6 by 9 easily by cutting 1 inch out of the rear jaw and supplying modified shorter shoes, track shoes at the back, and a 6 by 9 counter block, which puts another inch of pressure to the rear of the press. In the past, we've also stretched it to the front of the press to bring it up to a 7 by 9, but the overhanging of the die box didn't work out well, so sometimes we had to modify and put supports under the die box attached to the pressure block so that the die box could accept the pressure without bending. We've also stretched them sideways a little bit, but it's gotten to the point where I decided 10, 12 years ago to just upgrade the 5 by 9 format to the biggest format that you possibly could. The press always remains the same size. You have a 3 by 8 3/4 press out there, but you can run a 4 by 6 counter block. Doesn't become a 4 by 6 press. Did I sort of answer your question?
Yes.
You got to do it with a ruler. That's how you tell whether it's been modified or not.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.